Welcome to this segment of Take 10, where I am still talking to Bishop Doug Young from Los Banos, California, our Father's house. You'll do yourself a favor by Googling him and looking at some of the great things that he's doing and also listening to some of his fantastic preaching. And it is evident in his preaching and teaching that there's a lot of study involved. And we're going to take a segment, and I'm going to take a different segment and talk to him about that insatiable desire to learn more and to never be satisfied with the level. We're always studying, we're always reading. We were watching Winston Churchill movie last night. I know that's nerdy to be looking for the quotes and the statements, but we get off on that. We enjoy that program. Doug, tell us how you study for your ministry.
I think a lot of different components. There's a saying that says, not every reader is a leader, but every leader is a reader.
That's
powerful.
Say it again.
Not every reader is a leader, but every leader is a reader.
That's great.
We're always reaching and studying, digging. Conferences are powerful. For years, I didn't go to conferences. I just stayed busy, and you get tunnel vision. You can only see what you're doing. And so we begin to get out and go to different conferences and begin to realize that God's doing so many great things all over the world.
What type of conferences? Because I know you attend things that are not on your comfort level.
Sure. No, we press outside of our comfort level.
Outside of your church?
Outside of our
affiliation.
Church affiliations and outside the norms. We've gone a number of years now, every year to Catalyst. That's a powerful leadership conference. It is pretty much for leaders, church leaders, and the downloads you get there are phenomenal. Also exponential. We've done that for a number of years. And of course, the Church of the Highlands. Chris Hodges, just to grow and all the things that you learn there. Powerful stuff. But we're always at Gateway, great conference. I would go every year if I could to Gateway. Just a powerful.
Thank God for the internet.
Oh man, you can get so much on the internet. But the process of getting ready for Sunday, I think that's what you're talking about today. And I'm always, someone asks me, because I like to tell jokes and funny things when I preach, and they said, where do you get all the material? I'm constantly doing research, and I'm looking just funny life stories, and then looking always, and I'm writing down my notepad on my phone. When I see something that catches my attention, I write it down, or type it in now. It's not writing it down, or snap a picture of it. Always getting, and then people have started gathering things for me, and they'll send me little stories and funny things. Just that's just one example, but you're doing that on a level. Also, reading the Scripture. I started a number of years ago with the YouVersion Bible app. I read through the Bible every year, and usually a different translation because I see things I've never seen before. So that in itself sparks ideas and thoughts. And one thing that I just want to say, don't be embarrassed to go look at what somebody else is doing.
That's it.
And that it just be open to hear. We listen to a lot of preaching. My wife and I, when we get up in the morning, a podcast are our best friend. So while we're dressing every single day, sometimes it drives me crazy. Hope she don't hear this. She will now.
She will. You're locked in.
It drives me crazy because she's got we're listening to sometimes 2 podcasts.
You know, we did that this morning at breakfast.
Yep,
she put her iPhone out in the middle of the table, and we listened to a guy, a researcher on a TED Talk. It was awesome. It was fantastic.
TED Talk's a great resource for listening to people who are thinking outside the box. So many different things there. But just even the other preachers, you know, you hear something, sometimes it's just a line during a whole sermon you might hear, you go, wow, I've never thought about it like that. And then you can go from there and begin to develop it out in your own style. There's so many great resources today. There's no excuse for bad preaching.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And I know you're a military buff, and you watch a lot of things outside of Christian literature. And tell us how that impacts when you're able to stand before a crowd, whether it be whether it be the people in the Optimist Club in town or the Lions Club, or it is in the church. How does that affect your public speaking? You studied for it, now it's in you.
Well, intentionally, I always try to get better. I've never just been satisfied with what I've done in the past. I always want to get better. I'm always trying to look at how do I make it more effective? How do I communicate better? A few years ago, one of the things I learned at Catalyst was I heard pastors talking about how they have a little team of people, trusted friends, that in between services, if you do multiple services, they'll pull in and go, let's do a little review. How did I do?
Oh, boy.
Did I communicate well? What did I do well? What could I do better on? And
Hey.
that's being very vulnerable.
Hey, you can't be insecure doing that, because
Absolutely.
you're gonna get the raw data right there. That's powerful.
And you have to have someone who will tell you the truth. So you don't want to just pick your friends and say, "Oh, you're awesome, pastor." You want people that go, "Well, that didn't work," or that, if
or you went too long on that,
or that was too long,
or you should have pulled the plug and had the altar call at that
right.
one session.
When that, and as a speaker, you've been doing it a long time. When you hit that moment where it's like, man, this is a great time to go to the altar call, but you hadn't finished your points.
So you got to go down.
You got to go through your points, and then you do the altar call, and it wasn't as effective. You go, man, I missed it there. I should have just went right into it. And so those things you learn with experience, and no matter how much experience you've got, you can always get better. But being that person who's looking to get better all the time, how do I get better? And I've learned a lot from just watching other pastors, watch them do their delivery. Some of the great pastors even have their notes online where you can actually take their outline and go, okay, that's how they did that. And then you watch it on the video section and you go, oh, wow, this is how they presented. This is how they put it in place. And always try to get better.
When he and I were raised, I'm older than he is, but when we were raised, they had a saying, well, old son, just open your mouth and let God fill it. And we did. Well, God didn't fill it many times. It was a lot of bologna sauce came out, and a lot of things became doctrine and became the way of life, because it felt good when it was saying it. But we're working with a much more complex crowd, and sometimes your greatest audience is one. When you're visiting with one. Today we'll be visiting with one minister in the gospel, one at lunch. The subjects there cannot just be. You have to judge. Is this a funny time? Is this a time to let your hair down and just discuss, or has God got a time that some of that wisdom is going to come out of you? And I've watched Doug, and I think what he's saying to you is be strong in your thought process, be out of the box, be creative. And let somebody else speak into your lives.
Don't be afraid to learn from others.
How would you say because we have many entrepreneurial ministries of helps organizations in the ICCI, and they're called on to speak and to present their case to a businessman.
Right.
Or how do you approach that? Do you just say, well, I'm going to go wing it, or how? I know better, but I'm trying to pull that question out. So let me set the story up. You've got a business guy in town, or you got somebody in town that's we're going to have lunch with, or you're going to meet them, and you know that you're going to have a moment to either present Christ, present your mission,
right,
or have that. How do you approach that? How do you prepare for that and study for that?
Well, things started changing for me when we started multiple services, and I was trying to make sure the second service was just like the first, so people didn't feel like we had to compete between services or have to come to both services because it was different. And I'd never, my notes were my scriptures, maybe an example, and then we would, that was it. I started writing down more because you want to make the same points. Really important
to keep the whole congregation
to keep it on the same page. But one of the big habits that I do, and I learned this through the years, is practice. Our background, you never practice. You just pray and be led by the Spirit. Which you can practice and be led by the Spirit. I just want you to know that. They say 7 times. You should do your talk 7 times to an empty auditorium. That's how I started preaching. When I was 12, 13, 14, I'd go to the church, and preach to the. I got those pews saved so many times. They gave their heart to Christ week after week as I stood behind the podium and preached to empty chairs.
I know that you'd like to hear a lot more from Bishop Doug. He has some different teachings and trainings and what have you. Go to the website, ourfathershouse.com, or just Google Bishop Our Father's Church.
OFH.church.
OFH.church. Just Google Our Father's House, Los Banos, California. You'll come up with a lot of things. Thousands of people come into his meetings through the way of the internet and listen and learn how in a very small community you can be effective. So what's going to be your big day today? Your big day is you're going to go off of this Take 10 and be strong and find that God is going to meet you at the point of your study. So be creative and keep your eyes and ears open and read everything you see. God bless you. I'll see you next time on Take 10.